Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have for you here this morning. We've got this. We've got Coinbase, SEC. We've got FedNow, HSBC. How about this? U.S. Treasury Fiscal Department and $6.4 trillion daily. How about multi-year ascending triangle for XRP? How about somebody roll that beautiful intro?
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.22 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1.1% this morning. Bitcoin 30,300 plus, Ethereum 1,800 plus. We see Tether market cap 83.1 billion plus. XRP is 48 cents in holding. Remember that 48 cents line is a crucial point for XRP and the bulls in this market, in this space. But right now, we are off by 1.9% in the last 24 hour and off by 1.7 in the last 7 day. If you haven't taken a look at this, ladies and gentlemen, check out one of my sponsors here. It's not Michael Saylor who says Bitcoin is unstoppable. It's Jason Cousins and GlintPay who says unbeatable together. Gold using GlintPay. And you know what? He's right. Because if you haven't done it, check out the link to my sponsor underneath the video, GlintPay. It is the best way to be the alternative to banking. You can create your own banking system alternative to banking using gold and GlintPay together and get your MasterCard debit card, connect it to your physically allocated gold, and spend away without the banks in the way. How about that one? This is Paul Grewal here from Coinbase, Chief Legal Officer, former federal judge. He says, maybe I've got it wrong, but as I review the transcripts of Binance's hearing before Judge Jackson, since when does Rule 8 or 11 allow any party, let alone the government, to reserve identifying what exactly it claims to get past? A motion to dismiss and into discovery. He goes on to say here, the court says the others that you say they're trading in that you're not saying are securities because you're not saying all of the ones they're trading in are securities, correct? The counsel for the SEC responded, we, at this time, Your Honor, we're reserving our rights just given we're at the pleading stage. We have to get into discovery where we can make a full assessment. But our position, says the SEC counsel, Your Honor, is that if one of these coins are a security, we've won. That's the mindset going on here. Remind anybody of the SEC versus Ripple case or library case? It does me. John Deaton remarks this. He says, I call this, Your Honor, we're reserving our right to call everything a security at a later date when we have a politically motivated reason to do so argument. Yeah, John Deaton nails it right there. Then we have Bill Morgan here retweeting Anthony Welfare, Ripple advisor. And if you haven't read Commercializing Blockchain by Anthony Welfare, it is a fantastic book, and it happens to remark about the moment we're currently in. Anthony Welfare shares here, tagging Jonas Gross. He says, for interesting insight, CBDC has a long way to go, but a CBDC based on distributed ledger technology, DLT, is by far the most innovative step forward. A non-DLT solution is only an iteration of the current highly inefficient system. Why settle for iteration when you can empower? How about that one? Anthony Welfare lays down. Bill Morgan says this, and I agree. He says, I like how you put this. A non-DLT solution is only an iteration of the currently highly inefficient system. It surprises me people think a bank can just build substitutes for what Ripple is building and think it is a complete substitute when it is a non-DLT based or permission system. Well said by Bill and Anthony there. I wanted to bring that up because of this point, and we're getting ready to look at some information here. The banks are not innovators, to the point that's being made here by Bill and I believe indirectly by Anthony. And truthfully, that's why companies like Ripple are in this space. Truthfully, that's why you hear the BIS and the IMF talk about public-private relationships quite often, because it has to go hand in hand with the conversation of being able to move to a digitized world and tokenizing everything of value. Now, let's take a look at this really quickly. HSBC Hong Kong now lets their customers trade Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Now, these are future ETFs here. I'm not going to go into the article because I've already read it, but you see that this is opening up around the world. The SEC just recently also approved leverage BTC futures ETFs for the United States here. I believe this is going to add to the mayhem in this space because it's not a spot ETF. It is a leverage future ETF. And I believe that, you know, the SEC version that has just been approved, not this one here, but I'm just speaking to the one in the United States at the moment. And I believe that's going to add more problems in this space than it will solutions, but we'll see. Meanwhile, Augustin Carstens, the head of the BIS, cannot stop talking about a unified ledger, a single platform. Now, we've heard Ripple and many others say, and I believe rightly so, there will not be one to rule them all. However, there will need at least one or two that have the interoperability to connect them all. And I believe that's what we're really hearing about here. Take a quick listen.
And we propose a new financial infrastructure, a unified ledger. The ledger, which in practice would resemble a network of networks, would allow for seamless transactions between digital money and other tokenized assets on a single programmable platform. As we discuss in the chapter, this could greatly increase the efficiency of existing financial transactions, deliver instantaneous payment settlement, and to unlock entirely new economic arrangements. The vision that we propose is ambitious, and it won't be assembled overnight. That is all the more reason for us to get moving. Society rightly expects the monetary and financial system to take full advantage of technological advances to deliver better and more efficient services.
And we get it, Augustine, we get it. And then there's this right here, which is Hyung-Song Shin from the BIS as well. And he's going to break it down for you what's going on with tokenization. But I want you to pay very close attention to the language he uses. And I'm actually going to skip to a section that I want you to hear here. You get the idea about tokenization, which is the first part of this video. What I want you to hear very quickly, it starts right here. Take a listen to what he says about tokenization, stable coins, and the verbiage that's being used.
Now, tokenized forms of private money complement CBDCs and provide the primary means of payment for real and financial transactions. And there are two main candidates for this role: asset-backed stablecoins and tokenized deposits. Both represent liabilities of the issuer, redeemable in the sovereign unit of account, but they differ in crucial respects on how they're transferred, and hence in their suitability as the primary means of payment. Stablecoins, in essence, represent a transferable claim on the issuer, similar to a digital bearer instrument. They're similar in spirit to the private banknotes that circulated during the free banking era, where private money circulated with the issuer's name printed on the note.
Oh, interesting. Like bearer bonds, when something is a note. This is the language of banks. I've always said if the banks are going to use digital assets, they need to be called something the banks already use and understand inside of their regulatory framework. This when something is a note business isn't over yet, ladies and gentlemen. That much I believe. I really do. And to add to that, we know that this coming month, we are supposed to see the launch of FedNow. Now, I've been counting down to the 1st of July, but as I understand it, it's been said to me by a couple people that it's like July 20th or July 21st that it's actually the official launch date inside of the month. Now, I also want to be very clear that I don't expect to see massive price action, but I wouldn't get upset if it happened for XRP. But what I do expect to see is the new system and the new plumbing and financial payment rails organizing that domestic liquidity, so at some point in the future they can draw on that new domestic liquidity through the FedNow system to make large-scale value payments for something like XRP as a bridge currency in the future. That I expect to see. What else I expect to see is the fact that FedNow works, and it should work seamlessly and almost instantaneously. And it should work 365 days a year, regardless of holidays. All of those things should start to take place. Now, with that being said, the overwhelming preference from credit unions was FedNow service. Now, this is interesting. The top choice among banks. If you look at this, you can see that the benchmark study found that 90% of banks and credit unions executives say they plan to add new payment systems in the next 2 years. The overwhelming preference from credit unions was 72% was for the FedNow service, and it was also top choice of 60% of the banks. Well, what's interesting about that is I want to remind a bunch of people about this from back in 2020. This is from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is an enforcement agency in the finance world. And what's interesting about this, if you remember, is that right here, it talks about new solutions to help banks with remittance and payments transfers. And basically what it cites here is Swift GPI, Global Innovation Tracking Product. And it also cites non-bank remittance transfer providers like Ripple, right here. And their virtual currency that they're talking about, virtual currency, XRP. This is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And inside of this, they're basically saying that this is a solution that is good for banks and credit unions. We know for a fact that Ripple is a partner to FedNow. Again, RippleNet can be used without accessing XRP. You don't need to use XRP domestically if you've got the liquidity dollar to dollar. Why would you need to do that? You know, it doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't mean they're not going to use RippleNet. And again, organizing that domestic liquidity is a massive step forward. I want to give you the enormity now and share with you just how big all of this is. I want you to listen to this gentleman talk about FedNow. The U.S. Treasury Department of Fiscal Services joins FedNow, and the amount of money we're really talking about on the daily, $6.4 trillion. Take a listen.
Some super big news for you. One of the biggest announcements in FedNow, and I want to say the biggest announcement since FedNow service itself was announced, just came out. The Federal Reserve announced the addition of multiple organizations to the FedNow Service Pilot Program, new ones that are joining the FedNow Service Program. These participants, they're joining the already established 120 other organizations that are already in the program's testing phase, which began earlier this year and will continue until the launch of the FedNow service in 2023. And out of these new participants, one of them really stands out. Who? The U.S. Department of the Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service. That's the U.S. Departments of the Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service. To me, this is the biggest announcement in FedNow since the announcement of the FedNow service. Why? Well, think about it. Who is the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service? They are the government agency that, among many other things that they do, they provide the central payment services to the American public on behalf of government agencies. And they operate the federal government's collection and deposit system. Just how many payments are we talking about potentially here, Professor? Well, if we go look at some of the data available on the internet, you can go check this yourself on the Bureau of Fiscal Service, and we look at data through fiscal year 2021, the Bureau of Fiscal Service processed nearly 202 million EFTPS transactions valued at $3.56 trillion in tax revenue. They processed nearly 81.4 million transactions worth nearly $210 billion through pay.gov. They securely dispersed 1.7 billion payments totaling more than 6.4 trillion, and they did it 100% of the time. That's a lot of payments. Let me break this down for you a little more. If you get a federal government benefit payment like Social Security or an electronic funds tax payment system like, IRS tax returns, then you have benefited from a U.S. Department of Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service payment. Well, what's this really going to mean to you? As a financial institution, as a consumer, it's going to be huge. And the truth is, I can't say for sure because there's no official announcement that has been made by the Bureau as what this will mean, but I believe this means that your bank and your credit union needs to get on the FedNow network, that it will enable you to be able to receive government payments like IRS returns, Social Security payments, or do you guys remember back those electronic impact payments? Those were distributed by the Bureau of Fiscal Service. Could you imagine if you could get them faster? Can you imagine what it means to the payments industry, let alone the country, to have the U.S. Treasury Bureau of Fiscal Service having the ability to distribute FedNow instant payments? Go from getting a payment in a day or two to getting it in seconds. Again, this is my opinion, but this is a game changer, and to me, it's the biggest announcement in the FedNow service, or really in payments, in years.
Absolutely right. And that's exactly what I'm excited for. And I know you guys are too. Let's see how it all unfolds. Again, I'm excited for it beyond price action. I'm excited for it because I believe it is one of these final steps, last mile connectors that ends up making it to where you can get the money and the funds to a final recipient and also organize that domestic liquidity back end to make large value payments with digital assets like stable coins, CBDCs, or XRP. XLM. Now let's take a look at this. This is the XRP multi-year ascending triangle known as the MIAT. I'm going to say right here, MIAT. Shout out to Eggrad Crypto for this. This is interesting, these percentages here. He says ascending triangles indicate a bullish formation signaling a potential upward breakout. Here are the key insights. Success rate, 72.77% of profit targets. It says in bull markets, 83% experience upward breakouts. Breakout is expected when approximately 65% of the pattern is complete. In May 2023, breakout date, 65% not successful. Then we watch it here in July, which is coming up, currently in progress, has a 70% chance of a breakout. However, if it goes all the way to November, we'd have an 80% pending may not be reached. All of these targets may not happen. But looking again, look here. So that's November, 80%, March 2024, 90% pending, obviously. Then August 2024, 95%. So there's a little more than a year from now, if nothing happens, it's a 95% chance with that ascending triangle pattern. So all of this is something to take in mind, and these dates, like May, it didn't happen. We watched it. July, we watch it. November, we watch it. I'll watch it in March. I'll watch it next August. You know, that's how I do it. I don't take these as predictors. I take these as, you know, indicators, windows of opportunity to pay attention to. And I know that Eggrad Crypto does as well. And he does so well of a job making sure we all have these things to put in our little reminder folder in our minds here. But I tell you, just personally, I'd like to see November. I know if I had, November would be nice in my mind, just because I remember December, January of 2017, 2018. If you weren't here in this space at that time, what a remarkable 26 days, I think it was, of that bull run. My goodness gracious. I'd love to see something like that again in November, and I wouldn't get mad at that. Look, it's not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.